Hi, I'm Mattrified.
Hey, my name is Rodrigo Fernandez. You might know me as Roeb.
Hi there, I'm Reeb from Team 18K.
Hey, I go by Roeb online. I am the developer for 52 Beat Up, a fast-paced deck-building fighting game that relies on a ton of movement and a bunch of wacky shenanigans.
Hey, what's up? This is Tom. I'm the founder of Goldrick Games, and I'm the lead designer of Versus Tag Shuffle, a two-player, fighting game-inspired board game that's currently playable on Tabletopia.
I am the lead dev behind Mattrified. I've also recently become the lead technical designer of Drag Her, and I'm also the lead dev currently behind Battle High.
I'm working as a combat designer and combat programmer for Shattered, a pixelated 2D fighter inspired by old school fighting games such as Street Fighter Alpha 2 and King of Fighters.
What am I doing? What am I working on? I wear many hats on our studio, ARF Game Studio. We do a lot of work, mostly contract work for clients like Cartoon Network and some other stuff. What we are making, we cannot talk that much just yet, but what we can say is we're using the engine from Versus and Jump Joust, if you know the Teen Titans game. We're making something with that engine, besides some other projects that we have with other different clients and NDA protected stuff.
If I could pick any dead or inactive IP and make another game for it, I'd probably pick Darkstalkers. Just the very cliche option.
Dead IPs that I would love to see revived. One of them kind of has like a mini revival period going on. There's like two Clay Fighter fan projects, I think. One's called Resculpted and the other's Ultra Clay Fighter. So that one's not really on the list anymore. The other is Eternal Champions. I've been watching some people play that on streams lately. And that's been a lot of fun to watch, so I could see that would be a cool one to work on.
If I could revive one dead gaming IP, I would bring back El Shaddai. Except instead of trying to remake it or make a sequel or anything like that, I would just take what they did for action beat-em-ups with that game and make it into a fighting game.
I absolutely love the presentation of Darkstalkers. It's slapstick style. I want to build on that. Moving up to a higher res pixel art or going a hand-drawn 2D style.
But the one I've really always wanted to work on was just like this stupid Golden Girls Murder, She Wrote crossover tag fighter. I could just see it. It would just be so silly and like just dumb. Like Murder, She Wrote has like a jewel thief turned insurance salesman with an umbrella that shoots darts. So like that alone, Dennis Stanton could be like a goofy character.
What I loved most about that was what they did with the button configuration and real estate. They did a lot with very few buttons, and it was a really interesting combat system, something that I would love to see replicated in a fighting game scenario.
In terms of gameplay, we'll figure that out. I want to keep its very simplistic yet intricate style of Darkstalkers, and how easy it is to pick up and play, but also how chaotic and fast and fun it could be.
The one dead IP that I would like to see revived and kind of do something with is the Real Bout Fatal Fury series.
Dexter's Laboratory Metroidvania would be what I'll go for.
Specifically the Real Bout series, always thought was very interesting with these different lanes of combat, but it never quite worked out the way I would like to see it. I think there's a lot to be done there, which I would really love to explore if I could work on it myself.
I could see Jessica Fletcher having a Phoenix Wright from Marvel type mechanic where she has to find clues. She has a grumpy doctor friend named Seth Hazlitt who would, I don't know what he would do, but he'd be annoying.
That somehow Dexter ends up in the depths of his lab and he needs to, make technologic stuff, sciencey stuff to acquire new abilities, new moves, new robotics to keep exploring within the depths of his laboratory and come out victorious from the whole shenanigans.
I think the kind of sidestepping mechanics that you get in 3D fighters, I think I would want to bring that to a 2D world. Of course, we might actually get this, and it's not no longer a dead IP. There's supposed to be a new Fatal Fury on the rise soon, so we'll see if this is all for nothing.
Besides the 4, Dorothy's ex-husband Stan sold novelty comedy goods, so like that could be like a goofy mechanic. Just like a lot of dumb things, and it would just be stupid and fun and like not serious. And I can imagine it, and I've been wanting to do it as an April Fool's joke for the longest time. It's just a matter of actually taking the time and then having to deal with the inevitable cease and desist from Disney.
I appreciate this question, but it's going to be preference 100% of the way.
For leverless controllers, my opinion, personal preference,
So when I first read this question about the leverless controllers, I kind of was like, oh, I don't really care. Like, who cares? Like, at least for me, like, I don't really care what people play Mattrified on as long as they're enjoying it. So, like, initially, my first thought is like, oh, it's just player preference. Like, it doesn't really matter.
I think as a TO, the last thing I would want to do is get in the way of players finding better technology to help supplement their gameplay and to make the game more accessible and healthy for them to play.
If you feel it's more comfortable in that, go for it, I play on keyboard for most fighting games. Horrible, I know. So that's a leverless.
But then I thought about this incident in men's swimming that happened in like 2009 or something, where like some guy beat a Michael Phelps record because he was wearing like a new type of swimsuit. So like it made me kind of reconsider, like, yeah, I can see in very competitive spaces when there's like a lot of money and accolades on the line, having advantages in the tools you use could be a little like, it's like, it for me, it's not like, oh, I don't think they're cheat boxes, or I think they are. It's more just like, yeah, I can understand at least wanting to have more discussion and investigation into it and just like really analyzing, like, is the few frames that you can do certain things faster, really a problem on these devices? I doubt it long run, but I kind of understand at least why people want to discuss it.
I think the big problem comes in limiting button use, which I feel like I see a lot more of that on leverless controllers, like the one instant car pot buster, that classic. Love it, but a little unfair.
But again, I think, if a tool helps people do something, especially when we're talking about ergonomics in games, like if it does help, relieve wrist issues on a player, I think that's more important than, a device that maybe is more quote unquote fair, but, is causing more physical damage long term or something.
Obviously, leverless controllers are a player preference, and certainly not cheat boxes.
So when it comes to the hitbox and the lever gamepad discussion, I would just go with, as long as you're not actually cheating, you can use whatever. Is it a gamepad, a hitbox, or whatever you're using?
There's really no way to regulate around different controllers. It's an important part of the fighting game scene that we can make our own controllers, do our own things with it, and get it the way that we want to do it.
And I also think part of it too is on the dev a little bit. Like I think there was a time when controllers were having thumbsticks and D-pads at the same time. There were like older games where you could hold like left on the D-pad, right on the thumbstick, and like always perfectly block. So like making sure that you have those sort of rules written into the game to prevent issues like that, I think are also important, and that's regardless of the device being used to play.
And developers simply have to keep in mind that it's possible that there might be controllers that will have opposing inputs, and should make a very clear decision what is going to happen as part of their design. Of course, some leverless controllers like the hitbox actually have their own built-in guards against this, because back in the day, game developers weren't taking this into account.
Within the tournament limitations, just go for it. You're not using macros, it's cool. You're not using like weird tech that could give you an obscenely huge advantage, then just play with what you feel comfortable with and have fun. That's kind of like the big deal. It's a weird discussion, honestly. Meh.
But it's really, really important that you do that right. And this is, something that we need to do and every game developer needs to figure out. And this is not just for leverless controllers. This is also for, people with disabilities who have special controllers that, they need to do things with. It's really important that we can support that, and we should not be banning that either, and therefore we should have a solution for it. That's how it is.
The best way niche fighter fans can help the devs is actually pushing the community. And by that, I mean participate in whatever community stuff the devs are trying to make. And if you can push it yourself, it's most welcome.
The boring answer is like, oh, financially, like, oh, buy my stuff and support my Patreon and all that stuff. That's like the boring answer, which is like true. But I think like almost a better one is like to just interact and give good feedback to that dev.
Two big things that would help a lot for me personally. Number one is just interaction-based stuff, likes, retweets. They're free, they're easy to do, just click a button.
Letting folks know about the project is helpful, even if you're not really into it yourself. If it's not your cup of tea, but you still want to see it grow, share it on social media. You guys know the thing. It's all that new media crap.
If you're into niche fighters and if you're into, what we're doing with Shattered, the best way to help us and to assist us is, to follow us on Twitter @Team18K. And spread the news about the game if you're excited about it. Join our Discord, talk about the game, and once the demo's out, go play it and evangelize.
Which is huge. Advertising is so hard. It is so complex, so confusing, and having that consistent way to just get more people to hear about your game, it helps so much, and it really is so important.
In our case, what happened with Versus a couple of years ago really helped a lot to create a great community and people interested in the game when we were busy doing other stuff, coding or working on contract work or whatever. The community is all, and whatever the fans can do to, catalyze that community would be always welcome.
I would say practice what a lot of people call, or at least what I've recently heard called radical candor, which is to be honest and upfront, but do it in a way that the person you're giving feedback to knows that ultimately you care about them, what they're making, and their well-being, etc. Because especially for devs in this space, there's a lot of just negativity with whether like the game's ugly or dead or Discord, like whatever. Like there's enough negativity.
The best thing you can do for me as a developer is to play the game. Playing the game, providing honest feedback. If you enjoy it, that's great. If you don't enjoy it, I want to know why.
Even if there is things about a game that you feel strongly about that aren't good, it's fine to just be like, hey, there's this thing I don't think is very good in your game, but like, show that you still care. Not just say like, this thing sucks. There's the normals are bad in this game. Like, give reasons why they're bad or give some solutions. Like, don't just point a problem out. Try to give and help give the devs some solutions or ideas that you think could help improve them.
Number two is just play our games. Give us good feedback. Tell us what we're doing. If you enjoy it, share with your friends. Maybe get them on like a parsec and like, hey, check out this fun game we found. Just have a blast with it. We love hearing that. We love hearing feedback, what we can do to make the game better. Usually pretty open to all feedback. We might not incorporate all feedback, but we're open to hear it. But yeah, no, those two aspects help so much.
I think if you can't support a dev financially, giving good feedback that's actionable is almost as important, if not more, depending on, the situation.
So the one game design hill that we as a team would die on is that it's absolutely important that everything we do has a use. We really want any button you press to have at least one specific use to do. It can have multiple uses, of course, but you don't want to have like a jab that just doesn't do anything, or that you would never press or never use in a combo or anything like that. So everything should have some kind of function in the game. And we draw that even bigger. So if we have a combo that combos from one special into another special, but you could go into multiple different specials, those choices should be interesting. So it shouldn't just be, well, just do the one that does the most damage and then you're done. No, we're giving the player a point to choose what to do at that point. Well, then there should be an interesting choice to do every single one. We don't just want combo fillers, but we want, one that does maximum damage, another one that gives a better knockdown, another one that gives you a tricky reset, something like that. So we're always looking, how can we make most efficient use of what we put into the game? And that's partially, of course, just an economical choice. We're a small team, we don't have that much time, we're working on this in our free time, and we just want everything we put in the game to actually be used.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, basically, right? So if a game by like a rating system is like 2 out of 10, 6 out of 10, somewhere like that, it doesn't mean the game is bad. Enjoyment is subjective. So even if you find this game that is completely just, it's got a lot of bugs, there's a lot of polishing needed, but you find fun from that, even if it's ironic. Like, ironic enjoyment is still enjoyment at the end of the day. And I feel like games are meant to make you feel stuff, It's supposed to give you an experience. And even if the developers didn't intend for that to be the result of what they made, it's still something you find from the game. And I find that's really important to kind of understand, where it's not just like black and white. It's like, if you find fun from a game, then it's fun, and the game did its job.
Time to Hadouken. So I'm bringing this back. The game design hill I would die on is get your players playing as fast as possible. Stop it with the long-winded loading screens, long-winded end-user license agreements, and all that. Get the players playing as soon as possible. And I've said it with the concept of time to Hadouken, which is reduce the time between the player loads the game and does the basic cool stuff in your game, which is in fighting games, it's the Hadouken or something similar. So the longer that takes, the more anxious players will get, and you will lose them. So get them to the cool stuff fast. Got it.
I think for me, the real hill I would die on is that free-to-play fighting games are kind of just glorified demos at this point, and they're really not that like special or unique of a thing, because I think if you can't really do anything like mobile games when it comes to free-to-play marketing, or it turns into pay-to-win, which, like, sure, for single-player content that's fine, but for competitive content that's kind of like doesn't really work well. You annoy people who aren't paying for that content, and then because of the nature of the genre, you could spend all that money. Doesn't mean you're going to win because it's so skill-based anyway, so you could spend for all these extra perks and things and still lose. So, like, it really only makes sense for, like, okay, a lot of content is locked and you can pay it piece by piece, or you can just buy like a premium version with every character already unlocked or something, and then some costumes here and there, which kind of to me just kind of feels like this glorified demo. And I get frustrated when I hear things like, oh, it's a free-to-play game with like 20 million users, and it's like, but how many of those are actually converting to like paying customers? Like, that at the end of the day, that number is kind of just like, it's just a big number, but it's like, for free to play, it's such a risky thing. Like, it's not like game development in general is risky, but like for me, the free to play, the reason I would be like, yeah, I don't think every fighting game should be free to play, is because of just like that kind of thing. It's just like, oh, now I've done all this work, I'm launching in the red, I don't know how many people are going to actually pay for the content that I'm offering for free, but I'm still having like the stress on my servers and things like that. So it's a very risky thing. And like, I actually even thought about doing Merfight free to play for a short period of time. It would have been just like, yeah, the game's free and there's 2 characters, or you can pay to get the rest, and the 2 characters that you have rotate monthly. Like the Dead or Alive Core, I think is what it was called. Like, to me, that makes sense in terms of like free to play stuff, but to me, that also just a glorified demo. So it's not really anything that special.